Welcome to another episode of Sports Vibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Rupayan Av Samantha, who I've had on for previous episodes, including just vibing and some of the sports episodes too. Back when I was with Tash and Kapil, but yeah, busy week in sports as always. We got the Olympics, as they've kind of went from week one to week two, shifted away from swimming and into track and field, into stages in basketball, soccer, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess just to recap some of the events in the Olympics, like swimming competition, there's a big rivalry between the U.S. and Australia. The Australians won a lot of events, especially in women's swimming, and so did the States. And then in the team events, there's a big, rivalry between the two teams. Yeah. I mean, even in the men's events too. Some Bobby Fink won the men's 1500 freestyle. I mean, Katie Ledecky had a big game, Olympic Games. I mean, so many of the U.S. swimmers, even like Tori Husk. I think she won like 5 gold medals. Leanne Marchand from France, really good swims. I mean, set the world record, I believe, in the IM. Even breaststroke, backstroke. I mean, he's like one of the all-time star swimmers. 4 golds and 1 bronze. And then Tori Husk had 5 medals and 3 golds, 2 silvers. Molly O'Callaghan had 5 gold medals, 3 golds, 1 silver, and 1 bronze. And then of course Simone Biles in gymnastics, 3 golds and 1 silver. The U.S. won the women's team competition. Simone Biles also won on many of the individual. Suni Lee medaled, I think Jordan Childs medaled, but they had to overturn that one.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, U.S. is as usual pretty dominant in swimming and gymnastics. But yeah, I mean, that's, and then of course in track and field, more of the same. And the U.S. really did struggle a little bit in the men's in relay, in the men's 4x100 relay, unable to pass the baton in the landing zone. But in the 4x400, the women's and men's team won in gold medals in both. Netherlands actually won the mixed relay. And then in women's 100 hurdles, the U.S. got gold in that. In the men's 400-meter hurdles, Benjamin beat his rival Karsten Warholm to get gold in that. So and then in of course the women's 4x400 and men's by 4x400, U.S. won golds in that. Noah Lyles won 100 meters. Fastest man in the world. He went to him. 200 meters, he actually got COVID, so he ended up getting the bronze. And yeah, and then the U.S. women's water polo unfortunately fell short, losing to Australia. Beat Australia in the gold medal. The U.S. I think had to settle for bronze. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much a lot of the other sports, swimming, gymnastics, track. I mean, do you have any thoughts on all of those?
Yeah, I mean Noah Lyles, he won the more the tougher competition, and then the one that everyone was
Mm-hmm.
thinking that he was going to be the favorite, and he ends up getting bronze. I mean, kudos to him to at least like attempt like running, because I know that he said that he there wasn't any doubt that he wasn't going to run. It's just like, I mean, it's a shame that he had to get COVID there. I mean, it's been going around again, and like there were Australian swimmers. There were a bunch of athletes who got affected by it, and they couldn't even perform in their own events. So the fact that Lyles was able to run, at least good that he wasn't like prevented from that. But I mean, it's a kind of tricky situation there. Swimming, yeah, I mean, it's good to see that rivalry in full blast. USA against Australia.
No.
There was so
Yeah,
much
it's an
talk about,
intense one.
yeah, there was so much talk about how like they were tired of hearing the Star Spangled Banner. They brought
Yeah.
belts on. They were showing him the videos about how they hated the cowbells and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's good to see us edge them over in the end. And yeah,
Yeah,
other
definitely.
sports.
It came down to the final day too. It was like they're both
Oh
tied,
yeah,
and then the U.S. won
oh
the mixed medley over China, and they got in. Yeah, it's a big rivalry. Like I said, Australia won a lot of the women's ones. The U.S. won a lot of the women's ones too, and some of the men's
yeah,
ones, and then some of the team ones. And eventually, the U.S. pulled through at the end, and it was a really close competition. The rivalry, it's almost like India and Australian cricket. It was like a really big one, like between.
yeah,
But yeah, because I mean, yeah, like the whole thing about the Star Spangled Banner, obviously, like I think Kate Campbell from Australia was like,
Yeah.
she's like, oh, I'm really tired of hitting, and then the U.S. is just like Michael Phelps is like, just like block out all the noise or just like keep going or whatever he said. Like you said, as fuel and motivation, and that rivalry definitely showed up in the pool. And but yeah, I mean that pretty much sums up swimming, track, gymnastics, where the U.S. is dominant. A lot of different team sports as well. Yeah, I mean the women's soccer team won a gold medal. Once
Yep.
again, so back to the top of the world. I'm beating Brazil 1-0 or 1-0. A very different team than the last time around. I mean, no Megan Rapinoe, no Alex, so no Julie Ertz. So a lot of the women's stars either retiring or moving on, or just Alex Morgan wasn't selected, but it's a new guard. You got stars like Sophia Smith, Trinity Rodman. Of course, you got Mallory Swanson, who had the goal today.
Yep.
You have Alyssa Nair and Rutgers goalie Casey Murphy preventing good one too. And Nair was like instrumental today. With big key saves against Brazil that could have easily went into the net, and to hold them scoreless, pretty remarkable. And then of course to get the goal. I mean, they've been doing, that's been the theme of this tournament for the U.S. A 2-1 win against Australia, 1-0 against Japan, 1-0 against Germany, 1-0 against Brazil, and it's been like a different goal scorer. I mean, Trinity Rodman against Japan,
Yep.
beautiful goal. I believe it was
Yep.
Sophia Smith against Germany there, and then Mallory Swanson in the final to knock off Brazil. But yeah, new guard. But the women's team, like one of the top teams in the world, year after year, and they won their fifth Olympic gold. So I mean, I guess just like just your thoughts on the U.S. women's team, able to get back to the top of the world, and winning a gold medal.
Yeah. It's good to see that they're back. Like all the doubts that were placed on them, and like how like they couldn't win the World Cup. Then obviously the new coach transition. So
Right.
many new players.
Yeah.
So many retirements. No Megan Rapinoe. No Alex Morgan. She's not retired, but she didn't make it to the squad. And then there was
Right.
Julia Ertz, Kelly O'Hara, Sam Mewis. They're all
Mhm.
uh, no longer going to be representing the USWNT. But it's good to see the new girls step up, like Trinity. Then there's the defenders. Tierna Davidson's there. Then there's
I
Naomi
know.
Girma.
Yeah.
So it's
Naomi. Yeah. Yeah. She's been like really exceptional as well. So I mean,
yeah,
it's great performances all around.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
but
the US is in good hands. I feel like all the new generation players they've taken over the torch. I think they've successfully they're gonna keep moving forward like the dominance that USWNT has carried over the years.
exactly, yeah. I mean, for many years it was people like Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, I mean, so many others, Julie Ertz, like all the people that you just mentioned, and some of them are still there, but yeah, they're definitely passing the torch to like Sophia Smith and Trinity Rodman, and on the defensive side, like Naomi Girma, Melissa Nair has been kind of a constant. I mean, they still have like Rose Lavelle. They still have some of the pieces from the old teams. Yeah, of course, Alyssa Nair in goal, and Chris Dunn. I mean, they still have some of the pieces, but a lot of new stars. They Sonnet. I mean, a lot of new stars, kind of like carrying the torch, like you mentioned. And yeah, after the disappointment of the World Cup, I mean, kind of losing to Sweden on penalty kills in the round of 16, which is like very early. I mean, obviously good
Mhm.
team too. I mean, but like from that to changing coaches, Emma Hayes now, and being able to pull it off when a lot of people weren't really sure if they were going to be able to do that. And on top of
Yeah,
that, beating a team like Brazil, who's a
yeah,
soccer power in their own right,
yeah,
that's just icing on the cake. So I mean, congrats to the women's team. We'll have to see it. The U.S. men's team actually had a pretty decent run too. I mean, they made it to the quarterfinals before losing to Morocco, and this is in the men's tournament. It's a lot of like the stars don't typically play. They a few of them like they might, but it's an under 23 tournament. But the men's team played pretty well, I would say. I mean, making it to the quarterfinals, farther than a lot of the other U.S. teams have made it, especially
Mhm.
coming off a disappointing Gold Cup or Copa America, I should say. But yeah,
Yeah.
Morocco impressed for sure. In the finals, it was France versus Spain, two big European rivals, and Spain able to get the win 5-3. So they're coming off a Euro championship
Yeah.
themselves. A little
Waiting
bit
to
of a
see.
different lineup here, but
But
same
yeah,
result
maybe,
though. So
yeah,
Spain 5-3 to France.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. So and then
But yeah.
yeah, and then also like I mean, one of the disappointments I feel like here was Argentina, because they should have made it further. I feel like, because they had three of the Copa America like winners on their team as the three overage players joining the under 23 squad. So I mean, the fact that they were eliminated so early, they didn't even make it to the let's see, they lost to France. Um,
Yeah, they
in
also.
the quarterfinal, 1-0. So I mean, yeah, France is good. That makes sense. Good, but I'm glad that Spain got to beat them twice now, the Euros and the Olympics.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
one of
And then
the main surprises from the men's part was Egypt making it all the way to the bronze medal match. Like I would not have
yeah,
predicted Canada made it far enough from, I think, both the sides, like the men's and the women's side. I didn't expect them to make it past the group stage.
yeah, true. Canada, yeah, but Canada also did have a good Copa America. They made it all the way to the semis there with
Surprising
their
run.
best players.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely very surprising. They had a good tournament. Yeah, Argentina losing in this one to France. But yeah, no, yeah, it was a great soccer tournament on both sides. That was definitely very exciting to see. And then Morocco, they had a really good World Cup. I think they made it to the semis, and they did that again here. And then
Yeah.
they knocked off Egypt 6-0 in the bronze medal game. So after falling, to Spain, but Spain able to get the Euros and get the Olympic here with pretty much a different lineup too. They're under 23s, but yeah, that's pretty much soccer. Another sport that's kind of on its way out as we kind of get towards the end of the game. But you can't miss basketball. The U.S. men's national team won another gold medal. Their fifth straight, and it wasn't easy. Um, it was not easy. Starting with the game against Serbia, USA versus Serbia, US won 95-91, but Serbia was leading the game from pretty much from the tip all the way to, third, like even into the fourth quarter, the US was down by 17, and they're able to come back. And I just want to shout out Serbia for their performance, because I mean they were getting passes to Jokic. Jokic was playing good. Their other center, their backup center is playing good. I mean they're getting tips, and of course this doesn't even mention the 3-point shooting. I mean open shots. Bogdanovich was shooting threes, and they were making it left and right. And their sets were good. They were getting the open shooters, and they were making them at a very high clip. And some of the U.S. was still able to come back, which I thought that would happen, but it just took a lot longer than I
Yeah.
thought. But at the end of the day, the U.S. was able to pull it off, and a dominant fourth quarter where they outscored Serbia 32-15. And I mean, Holiday played some great defense, but really what it was, like LeBron James coming down like a freight train. I mean, Steph Curry hitting like three after three. I mean, he had 36 points and nine threes. I mean, just coming in so clutch at the end, even getting to the paint for a layup. But I mean, it's really been the Steph Curry show. But Serbia, I mean, after losing 110-84 in the group stage, I believe the first group game, I mean, a completely different game in the semis. I mean, they gave the U.S. everything they had, and they came this close. I mean, that just shows how basketball, you make a bunch of shots and you get open sets, you get open looks, and you have a night. I mean, and you could beat the best team in the world. I mean, it didn't happen, but I mean, Serbia really did better than anyone could have possibly imagined, I think. And then, of course, them winning the bronze medal over Germany to, kind of cap that off. And the final against France, I mean, that one was another big game, really exciting. France,
Yes.
I feel, is a better team than Serbia. I mean, they have a lot of NBA talent on there. They have Wembanyama, who's I think, I think he was rookie of the year. I mean, his skill set like no other in the NBA. 7'5", can shoot, can dribble, can do it all. Paint defend. They got Rudy Gobert. They got Evan Fournier. They got Nick Batum, some sharpshooters. They got Nanda De Colo, who's become like an Olympic legend in France. I mean, they got so much talent. And they got the guy who who posters LeBron James. I mean, that was like crazy. I don't even think that he even plays in the NBA, but I mean, he was just that guy was Gershon Yabusele. I mean, he posted LeBron. He had like 20 points or something like that. I mean, Bilal Koulibaly, Matthias Lasort. I mean, everyone played such a big role in that game, and the France was close. They were pesky, but at the end of the day, I mean, the U.S. just kind of outmatched them. Again, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. It's a big three: LeBron, Steph, and KD. And Steph Curry, like
Yeah.
exceptional performance for the second game in a row, especially at the end. He had eight threes, 24 points, and four threes right at the end. I mean, one of them he made the defender miss. Kind of waited, shot one. He shot a couple open looks. He sidestepped, and the last one he just threw up a prayer, and he just
Yeah.
silenced the French crowd. It was really there. Yeah, the French crowd was going nuts. Created a great game, but at the end of the day, I mean, U.S. was just too much for France, and with a lineup with that much talent, I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, you got Anthony Edwards. I mean, so many of the bench players who played a big role, and then of course you got, Joel Embiid, you got Bam Adebayo, you got size, you got shooting, you got everything. I mean, best defense, best shooting, best size, best rebounding. You're gonna win every game. So I mean, but really, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant really carried the torch for the US team, and I was really happy to see like competitive games with Serbia and France really putting it up, and it wasn't just a walkover, but US definitely took the cake for that one.
Yeah, and I mean it's good to see them actually like step up and play so well during the actual Olympics because of all the drama before the Olympics started when like all the exhibition games were going
Mhm.
on. How they almost lost to South Sudan. That would have been
Yeah,
embarrassing. That would have been
I
super.
know it would have been horrible. We were like I think 40-point favorites in that game, and they were
Yeah,
this close to beating
exactly.
like the greatest team ever assembled. I mean, it was great. But they just had to work out their chemistry, I think, because like the second exhibition, like as the second group play actually started, they were a different team. I mean, Kevin Durant came in off an injury. He didn't miss a shot until like
Yeah,
the very
yeah,
end. He was pulling up into threes. He was shooting, mid-range one-legged jumpers as he does. He just like in the NBA. I mean,
yeah,
they call him like one of the greatest scorers of all time for a reason. He definitely showed
yeah.
that. And then Steph Curry started the tournament a little slow, but towards the end, he really heated up. LeBron James was doing LeBron James things all tournament. I mean, hitting shots, passing, defense, of course, attacking the basket, like doing it all for the United States. So I mean, but yeah, no, it was a really good tournament for the men's team. They were rolling. Really cool seeing Serbia give the U.S. all they handle, and the U.S. still being able to come back. And same thing with France. I feel like if France had that kind of a lead on the United States, that's a different story because France has a lot more NBA talent than Serbia does. But in this game, the U.S. was ready for the challenge, and they were up for the fight. And France, they tried to come back, but then Steph Curry kind of buried them with a bunch of threes, and it was kind of like game over at that point because France doesn't have a shooter quite like Steph Curry. No one even close, and that really made the difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then France has such a bright future ahead of them. I mean, like there's Alex
They
Sars,
do.
Sachet. They're gonna eventually make it to the team. I'm kind of surprised they didn't make it this year. So like, yeah, like you're saying, like France has so much talent. They are one of the best. I guess like
Mhm.
I was surprised that Canada didn't make it far enough because I mean they're probably the second
Yeah,
like the most NBA players other than the US of course. So like
yeah.
I
There
mean
was a
and
yeah.
STA like Shea Gilgis Alexander, like I mean I'm really behind on him, like what I mean is like I really support him. So I feel like he's one of the next like faces of the NBA, and to see him not even like I mean, I guess they didn't qualify far enough, so it was kind of hard to see like Canada not make it. France was there, like Serbia also, yeah. I mean, I guess like what you were saying with France, if they had that same kind of lead, then they might have put USA away. So
They wouldn't have looked back. They would not have looked back.
yeah,
Yeah, if France had a 17-point lead, it would have been over because they could keep that going. They have
yeah,
size. They have decent enough shooters too, like where they can, you know what I mean. And then of course you have Wembanyama and Gobert
mhm,
if you want him. Like they
Go ahead.
Serbia, unfortunately, like they weren't able to keep it going, but France is like a different beast. But in the gold medal game, the U.S. was up for the challenge, and they made sure they wouldn't let France like get ahead of them. But so yeah, a good wake up call, I think. In terms of Canada, a loss to France, which I thought France was like the next best team, but I could see what you're saying because Canada has a lot of NBA talent. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, they have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, they have Neymar, they have
Mhm.
who else? Dylan Brooks. I mean, they have like a lot of NBA talent on their roster. They have Nikhil Alexander Walker, Lou Dort, RJ Barrett. I mean, of course, Jamal Murray from the Nuggets, who's like a killer.
Yeah.
I mean, Kelly Olynyk. I mean, they've got a solid team, but I feel like France is just too much because Wembanyama, obviously like who he is. You got they like the French coach like bench Gobert for such a long time, but I mean they got Nick Batum, they got
Yep.
I mean yeah Evan Fournier, then they got Yabu Sali who doesn't even play in the NBA. He had 20 points in the gold medal game, and all
He
these
has a
other
tribute.
guys like Nando. De Colo.
Yeah.
He
He has
contributed like a heck of a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, I think South Sudan was the only team that didn't have anybody who's an active NBA player. So just imagine how much the gap is closed in the world that now USA is
I
not. I
know,
mean, they're still always going to be number one. I mean, until somebody actually beats them. Nobody's. I mean,
right?
no matter how close the games get, they'll always be the first team. But now you're seeing those close games. Now you're seeing those like it's no longer dominant. It's not like in women's basketball where like the US team's winning by like 30, 40 points. It's much closer here. You're seeing more like games that are would lead games won with 10 or less points. So, and I mean, I'm glad that they brought everyone together. Like LeBron at one point was thinking he might not even play another Olympics again because he was frustrated when he was younger. Steph Curry, this is his first Olympics. I can't even believe that. He's been in this league so long, and he waited until like age 36 to play his first Olympics, and how dominant he was. It was amazing to see him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, some of the veterans. Steph Curry on his first and only Olympics. He said, I mean, really capping off his resume. I mean, he's won multiple NBA championships with the
Yeah,
Warriors. I think
yeah,
yeah, I think 3 or 4, and I mean, like just to be able to do it in the Olympics, and he played the biggest role. I mean, and against
yes,
Serbia, shooting a lot of threes and closing them out, and then
yeah,
again against France, like putting them away and hitting the night celebration. I mean, that was all him at the end, hitting like ridiculous threes, getting open, getting the space, and then the last one throwing up a prayer and burying it. Only Steph Curry could do that, and he
yeah,
did, and that was the biggest difference between the U.S. and France. Because without that, the U.S. were maybe a few points ahead, but like he really like iced it. So yeah, no, I mean really great to see that. The French crowd made it really interesting. I thought France would definitely have a chance at the end, but I mean, like I said, Steph Curry, got in the way of that, and then so shifting over now to the women's basketball, a similar story there. The U.S. has been historically dominant. They haven't lost an Olympic game in a while. I mean, so the U.S. won five, their fifth straight. The U.S. women's the men's won their fifth straight. The U.S. women's going for their eighth straight. They've been even more dominant than the men's team in this tournament. I mean, taking on France, but I mean they've won each game by like pretty much like 20 points. So yeah, I mean they beat Australia I think like 85-64. So I mean that's just they've pretty much ran through every team that they played going up to this point. And that's what happens when you got stars like Deanna Taurasi, I mean Aja Wilson. I mean, Sabrina Ionescu, Brittany Griner, just like the men's team. I mean, they have like the best. You got Alyssa Thomas. I mean, you got the Brianna Stewart. You got the best shooters. You got the best size. I mean, Brittany Griner is like 6'8" or 6'9". In the women's
yeah,
game, you got the best passers. I mean, they're just such a mismatch for almost any team that they play. I mean, they're beating Germany, other good teams by, many by 20 points. So yeah, they're ready for France.
yeah.
France also like they have like WNBA talent on that team. Of course, like all the best teams they do, but it should be another good game. I think the U.S. women's team should easily have it, but I'm looking forward to see looking forward to see the game. I mean, we got it's similar thing with men's. I mean, you got a French crowd. I mean, heavy French crowd, but a lot of US support there too because it's US basketball at the end of the day. So I mean, it should be a good one. I feel like the US is gonna win, but I think France could definitely make it interesting because they're in this game for a reason. So yeah, I mean, I'd say the U.S. wins, but I think France does make it interesting, and the crowds played such a big role in so many different sports. And France, when they won rugby, when they won, and when they've been the gold medal for handball,
Rugby.
for
Yeah,
for pretty
speaking
much
of
every
rugby,
sport they've been in.
yeah, speaking
Yeah.
of rugby,
Go
that was
ahead.
a shocker. I thought Fiji this is like a
I thought
micro
Fiji was gonna.
exactly. Like either Australia, New Zealand, Fiji. This is like, or even like South Africa. These are
Mhm.
the teams that are known for this sport. If you had told me before the Olympics that if France had a chance at medaling, I would have said no. I mean, I didn't even know that they had a team. That's probably me being ignorant, but like still like. Fiji should have won. Fiji like getting silver is an upset. So kudos to them for actually
Yeah,
making it
that's true.
happen. Like that was great though. That match was really surprising. And then also the
Yeah.
US bronze medal game in the against Australia for women's rugby.
For women's, yeah, because
The
yeah, 'cause France has Dupont, and like he was good, and they
yeah,
got a big win in front of their home crowd. Every time France is front of, and no matter what the sport or athlete, they show up. I mean, like March
yeah,
run in the pool. I mean, on the all the team sports, major, minor, and then in rugby, getting the gold, and then the women's, the U.S. like really had a big performance, getting
yeah,
all the way to the unfortunately, falling to New Zealand semifinals, but in the finals, able to I Cedric basically stiff armed the defender, and it was like a last second turnover, and she basically stiff armed an Australian defender, and then ran all the way across the field. Like, and it was it's basically like NFL style. I mean, like it was just
yeah,
like the announcers are calling it NFL style. And they got the bronze medal, and they got some stars like like Alana Mar, who's a really popular, Alex Cedric, Sarah Levy. I mean, they've got a really talented team. I mean, Sammy Sullivan. So like we'll see how this shakes out because in 2028 the Olympics, rugby is going to be there, flag football is going to be there. So a lot U.S. could really, but some of their ability in these types of sports because it really is similar to football. I was watching a lot of rugby earlier in the tournament, and the speed, the jukes, the physical strength of the U.S. just stiff arming defender, like a lot of that from football, and like it's just really cool to see them succeed in a sport like rugby, similar. But yeah, really really excited to see that as well. And rugby's been one of my favorite sports in the tournament, but yeah, like you
oh,
said, like France definitely getting the upset in over Fiji and able to win in front of their home nation, and I thought that was really cool as well. And but yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much does cover the Olympics.
well,
Talked
actually,
about
I wanted
basketball, soccer. Yeah, go ahead.
so, what did you think of some of the newer sports like surfing, breaking, and then there was
Oh
lots of like
yeah,
cycling, skateboarding, that kind of stuff. I thought those were some of the highlights of the Olympics. I mean, I tried watching some of the highlights, and all these there's so many youngsters like they're all like in their teens
mhm.
or even younger than that. There's some like 13-year-olds to like 10, 12, 11-year-olds. They're so talented. It just makes me think like what was I doing at that age? And they're here out here
Honestly,
getting
though.
medals, golds, bronzes, silvers. Like, oh my god! And then
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's
yeah, and
crazy.
then there was also did you get to see that iconic image of Gabriel Medina and surfing where he has that one finger up and the surfboard
Yeah,
like vertical is
yeah, I
really
saw that. That was crazy. And then in women surfing, I mean, Caroline Marks won over Tatiana Weston Webb of Brazil. I mean, so a golden for the U.S. I thought surfing was really cool. I thought breaking was really interesting, like
yeah,
breakdancing being in the Olympics. I thought that was really, busting out all the moves and stuff. I thought that was really cool. I mean, like, some of those skateboarding I thought was really cool. I watched some of that. A lot of youngsters are like definitely doing a really good job. And
yeah,
I mean, so I saw some climbing. I mean, all these like sports that don't get much
climbing.
coverage around, like, You know what I mean? Like in the Olympics, these are their moments that they work so hard for. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was really cool because especially the surfing because they had it all the way in Tahiti,
Yeah,
on the big waves, far away from France. So I thought all those sports being in the Olympics, I thought that those were some of the coolest moments, of course, and definitely, yeah, definitely important to talk about because I thought that definitely made for, yeah, and then of course Gabriel Medina with that iconic picture. But I think it's really important to recognize those sports because yeah, those were really some of the best sports to watch in terms of entertainment in the entire Olympics. So, but yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I definitely do agree with that.
Yeah, NBC's coverage of
So-
prime time in Paris, like it's doing a great job with like all the highlights and stuff. So that's how I am keeping up with like
yeah, yeah,
it makes it
whip
more
around coverage. Yeah,
exactly. It makes it more fun than just
it does.
reading about it or like because you get to see it live too. I mean, well, not live, but like at least you get to see the running video. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, they definitely touch on all the big events. So like shift from like we even saw like some of the surfing and breakdancing. I've seen like
Yeah,
some table tennis, badminton. I watched a little bit of everything, which has been really
yeah,
cool for me to really see different sports that you don't get to see, and then seeing all the gold medal matches and switching from swimming to track, and they really did a good job breaking it down like in prime time in Paris, and then the other
yeah,
channels, seeing some of the other events, but yeah, I mean it's been a really like a really cool games. I think the closing ceremony is tomorrow, and some of the final
yeah.
events are tomorrow, like women's basketball final, women's volleyball final, where the U.S. is also in that one. So, beach volleyball, the U.S. did very well too. That's been another one, but yeah, no, I mean, it's been a really great Olympics. But yeah, I mean, it comes once every 4 years. So I mean, cricket's gonna be in the Olympics, which is gonna be so cool. Flag
Yeah, I'm
football is gonna be
waiting
in
for
the Olympics. I think that's gonna be really cool. Oh, huh?
exactly. I'm waiting for
Hopefully
2028
some.
for that reason. Flag
Yeah,
football,
yeah. Me
baseball's
too.
gonna be back, softball's gonna be back, cricket for the first time in like I think since
Right.
1950. This is gonna be the second time it's gonna
Yeah.
be in the Olympic Games. So I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Definitely, definitely. And I guess yeah. While we're on the subject of cricket, since the T20 World Cup, I mean, teams have been kind of back in action on their own series. India's had a series with Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka actually took the ODI series and for their first win over India, and I believe since like the 1990s. So like in the series. So yeah, could you just like I guess tell us more about how that series, I guess both the series went because I know Gautam Gambhir took over as head coach for India. Yeah, and then India took the T20 series. Sri Lanka took the ODI series. What do you think about like?
Yeah, I mean the T20 series. I guess when I was going through all the games, it didn't seem like there was that much of an issue. I mean, there were a lot of there were a lot of like close matches and stuff, or like India had to rely on Sri Lanka like having kind of like a breakdown or. I forget what the word is, but like collapse. Like they had to wait for like batting collapses to lose games that they should have won. But I guess that was the indication of what was to come in the ODI series, where India couldn't even win a single game. So I mean,
Right.
if the super over was a thing in ODIs, which I don't know why it's just a T20 only thing, then there was a chance at least in the first ODI that India could have like won in the super over or something, because that game ended up tying. Like Sri Lanka had 230 for 8, and India were 230 all out, despite having almost 2 overs left. Like they just needed one more run, and the two wickets came like in quick succession thanks to the Sri Lankan captain Charit Asalanka. But in the T20 series, I felt like they were dominant just as they were, like just as they have been. They are the defending T20 champions for a reason. It's just that like I, I don't know. I feel like done they could have still done better than what they ended up doing. And I guess like they just got shell shocked during the ODI series. Like they have to revisit their opening partnership, because like Rohit Sharma is still performing at a high age, but at a high level at his age. But Shubman Gill, on the other hand, had such a bad series there. He couldn't get runs. He was trying to play like an anchor role, or maybe he just wasn't able to dissect the pitch properly, and he just kept getting out for low scores, but while taking up way too many balls to get those runs too. So tough ODI series. I mean, that I feel like is the more important one, because coming off a T20 World Cup win, uh, if it would be it would be embarrassing if we lost that series too, or even lost a single game in that series. So I'm glad that we went 3-0 in that one, but then losing the ODI series 2-0, first loss in 27 years, first ODI loss in 27
Mm.
years, and the first like ODI game when we lost the second ODI, it was the first game that we lost in 3 years, I think. So I mean, all that dominance, or whatever the dominance was, it's gone. So it was just kind of tough, because they actually
Yeah.
had guys like Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli playing. They may not have had a full strength squad. Like Hardik Pandya was missing. Jasprit Bumrah was given some rest. Ravindra Jadeja didn't even make it to the team. Uh, but like, I don't know. I just feel like it was a weird series. Like they weren't they weren't this wasn't like a U.S. Women's basketball team, or even a U.S. men's basketball team, where there's like dominance. Like that dominant factor was gone. They had all the players who led them to the dominance, and but they just could not perform when the time came.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it was a weird series, especially the last game in that series. They got absolutely blown out. Sri Lanka won 240, 240 for 7, and India got their whole lineup taken out in 6th over, going for 138 all out. I mean, you just
Yeah,
say yeah, just not good. I mean, like you said, yeah, some rest. Obviously, like no Jasper Bumrah or Hardik Pandya, but I mean they had like most of their lineup. I mean, they especially in the batting side, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli. I mean, to only get 138, I was like that one was just embarrassing and just to lose the
and
series. But I mean, yeah,
the worst part
just
is
not good.
the worst part is it might not have even been 138. We got 30 runs from Washington Sundar at batting at number 9. So without those 30 runs, that could have been
True.
108 all. That's
Oh
even
my
that's even
god.
more terrible. Like, what happened to her
It's
batting
horrible.
order?
Yeah, yeah, they just got like Dental order, which was actually like pretty good in the World Cup, just collapsed. Like, and
Yeah,
the top of the order wasn't like great either, to be honest. Yeah,
I,
and
I
Sri
mean,
Lanka on the other hand, like they were like cruising by, so they had like big performances. So yeah,
exactly. And I mean,
just weird, I
speaking of
guess.
the yeah, speaking of the World Cup, like what you were saying, like there was maybe like one or two new additions to the squad. Like Sundar wasn't there, Rian Parag, Shreyas Iyer, but Rohit Sharma, Gill didn't play, but okay, so maybe we can count him out. Rohit Sharma was there, Rishabh Pant, Virat Kohli, Akshar Patel, Shivam Dubey, Kuldeep Yadav for a couple of games, and then Mohammad Siraj. So that's almost the main World Cup squad in the T20 series. Like it's they're coming off of like they took a bit of a rest during the Zimbabwe T20 series when Gambhir still hadn't
Yeah,
taken over as head coach, but they had enough time. I feel like they had enough of a refresher since the World Cup, that they shouldn't have collapsed this badly. It was just like a spinning track, and our spinners couldn't take the wickets, but theirs could. They were very effective in that.
yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, they had enough rust where like it shouldn't have been like nearly that kind of like a series. Like yeah, like you said, at least they won like the T20 World Cup. It would have been like really bad if they. I mean they won the T20 series. It would have been really bad if they like lost on that one. But they're able to
And
take that
it
one
was close
pretty
too.
much in a sweep. But yeah,
Yeah, but it was close
but
too.
then
Like
like
I mean,
ODI.
it, in the T20 series, like in the first, the third one was decided by a super over. So that happens when like the game's tied. So we had to rely on an extra like
Right.
thing that we couldn't finish it in the 20 overs. In the first one, and in the second like T20 matches, there were batting collapses. Like the opening batters had led them to a good part, and then they just like what happened in the third ODI series, third ODI game, where like the Indians couldn't score any more runs, and it was just a full batting collapse. That's basically what happened to Sri Lanka in the first two T20 series, T20 games. Sorry, but that's the thing. Like there wasn't any signs of dominance. Like, they had to rely on almost luck to win the series, which at least they got it. Which is like after the fact, no one's going to remember that. But I guess the cracks in the armor were shown in that T20 series, and then they just weren't able to
Yeah.
piece them over in the ODI series.
Yeah, it definitely got a lot worse in the ODI series, but yeah, I mean sometimes things do happen, like upsets happen in sports, and
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I mean it is what it is, but yeah, hopefully they can bounce back on in the next series or whenever that happens, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean that's kind of how cricket's going, I guess shifting over to another sport with the bat and ball, going over to the MLB, just wanted to talk some baseball. I mean, the Yankees are kind of struggling a bit in the middle of the season, and they've really gotten out of their slump. Jazz Chisholm coming in from the Miami Marlins, he's just been hitting homers left and right.
Yeah,
Just on the Orioles' tail right now, Orioles are half game ahead. The Yankees playing a doubleheader against the Rangers, or well, they split their game against their doubleheader. Yeah, a
yeah,
lot
they
of rain
both.
this week, so a lot of doubleheaders. But yeah,
Yeah, lots of rain, lots of double headers. But yeah, I mean they're both tied in their rankings now, 69 and 48.
yeah, 59 and 40, 48, 49. Yeah, they're basically right on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Yankees, I mean, they were really, like I said, they were really struggling. I feel like the big, losing to the Mets, like all 4 games, that was just not good. I'm losing to the Rays, or losing, basically winning 1 out of every 3 games in a losing series. But I think where it really turned around was against the Red Sox, taking 2 out of 3, including like second game really close. Could have lost that one when Extra was able to pull that one out in Boston,
Mhm.
and then against the Phillies too. I mean, sweeping
Yeah,
them. And then the Blue Jays. I mean, like taking 2 of 3 from them, and then since then they've been on a much better in a much better spot. So yeah, I mean, I think Chisholm coming in, I think that definitely helped with that. But yeah, it's the Yankees are right there with Baltimore now as Baltimore starts to kind of slide just a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting race in the AL East, and then of course in the Central. I mean, you got the Guardians, you got the Twins. That one's pretty competitive. You get the Royals in there. Astros have kind of found their way to the top in the West. The Mariners are still like right on their tail, so
yeah,
that could be an interesting race to look at for as well.
yeah.
Yeah, and then
I mean,
yeah,
yeah. Speaking of the AL Central and the West, like I'm surprised at how like I mean the Guardians, Minnesota, and now Kansas City, who've been like bottom dwellers for the at least like past 5 seasons, maybe even 3 seasons, but
yeah.
like
Hmm.
the to see this much amount of competition is surprising to me because they haven't really been doing much lately. I feel like it's just been like that the top seed and then the like whoever comes in third or fourth place have like losing records or like just right around 500 but not like way above or something.
Right.
And now you have actually 3 competitive teams that I mean, there's still a chance for the Royals to take the division crown. In the West too, like the Astros, they started so horribly. I mean, one of our rider interns at Sports Radio America, like who's a Houston fan, wrote about how like the pitching was the main issue, like as far as why things weren't working out. And now to see see them on top 61-55 in first place. I told him that like, hey, look, you were talking about how bad they were, and then look at how good they are now. It's probably because of your article. They read it.
Eh, could be like a reverse jinx or something like that. Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, and then I mean, shifting over to the NL, the Mets really revived themselves after with the grimace and all of that,
yeah,
and they had a bad start and they're in second. The
yeah.
Phillies are like probably one of the best teams in the entire league, in both leagues honestly. But they've kind of been on a little bit of a downturn, but they've still been all right. Top the NL East. It's a little bit of a different year because the Braves are in third, like right behind the Mets, and the
Yeah.
Phillies are actually on top, so they won't even need their playoff surge. Like
Yes,
they've already
sir.
got it this time. Looks like. So that's
Yeah.
nice, I guess. I don't
About
really
time.
hate the Phillies
It's
so much
about
as some
time.
people
I've waited
other
so long
teams.
for this.
It is about time. Yeah, 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 definitely. So Phillies, Mets, Braves are kind of competing for second right now, and then in the Central, you got the Brewers leading the way. The Cardinals probably kind of still in it as well, and then the Dodgers as usual in the NL West. Padres right behind them too, and the D-backs who were in the last year's World Series are definitely
Mhm.
still in the mix.
Yeah. And NL West is really deep this year. I mean, even the Giants have like an over 500 record. So, I mean, it's good. It's good to see competition always. I don't like seeing like those breakaway winners where this is a just one team on the top, except when it's my Phillies, of course, in the NL East.
As well.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good to like see competition. You don't want like, yeah, you don't want to just see one team run away with the division. Yeah, the NL Central. I mean, NL West really competitive. Four teams over 500. Yeah, I mean the Padres right behind the D-backs, even the Giants. So that one can come down to the end of the season potentially. And the Dodgers 5-5 in their last 10. The other three teams 9-1, 8-2, 8-2. So they're all surging, trying to make a push. So yeah, it's definitely really interesting. I mean, you're yeah, I mean Dodgers and the Padres. The Dodgers are going to be really good. The Padres, especially with Tatis, they're also pretty good. The D-backs are the NL pennant winners, so in the World Series. So, and then on the other side, of course, the Astros kind of reviving themselves to get to their usual first. Mariners, obviously a pesky team in their series against the Mets. And then the Texas Rangers, who won the World Series under 500 at 55-62. So that's kind of interesting, to be honest. I didn't really expect them to kind of like fall that far, but they're still not really out of it. I mean, they're still kind of in the mix, but they're a little bit not really going in the right direction. Although Yankees we got a little bit of a sweep, or not sweep, but they got a split on the doubleheader today, and Astros taking 2 of 3 from them as well. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean yeah, Rangers. They're kind of in the mix. I think right now the Astros and Mariners they got it as the Rangers kind of make their way through New York and Boston. But yeah, certainly it's an interesting race. And then I feel like the Orioles and Yankees are surefire playoff teams this year. The Guardians are for sure. Probably the Astros are going to be in it, and the NL Phillies, the Brewers, and the Mets might have a chance, or the Braves, whoever comes in second there. And then probably the NL West is probably going to end up grabbing a lot of those wild card spots too. I mean, the Dodgers, the Padres, maybe the D-backs. So it's going to be an interesting postseason tournament. Anything can really happen, and it could be so different from one game to the next. It's really hard to predict who's going to win because we've seen a lot of upsets in the MLB playoffs.
Oh yeah.
So like we've seen like some of the best teams in the regular season like completely collapse. Like the Phillies have went on these crazy runs while beating the
Sure.
Braves and you know what I mean. So like the Astros losing to the Rangers. We've seen a lot of teams who barely snuck into the playoffs end up going all the way. So we could see some of that kind of stuff happen this year as well. But I think it's exciting because the Yankees and the Phillies and the Mets all like kind of in the mix this year. So all the local teams kind of getting like a shot, and even Baltimore. I mean, so a lot of East Coast, Northeast teams kind of like representing. I feel like so it's going to be an interesting playoffs for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I guess final thing, NFL. We can start talking about previewing some the season 2024 season. The preseason is underway, and that's obviously it's a fun time of the year. A little bit probably a little too early to start looking at the regular season just yet, but obviously we could definitely talk about the Giants, the Eagles, even the Jets. I mean, I was at the Jets preseason game today against
Oh,
Commanders, and I mean it was a good one. It was actually really exciting for a preseason game. It was kind of funny. I was like kind of Jets fan for the day. Probably for the first time since they beat the Eagles last year. But I don't hate the Jets. I like the Jets when they're not playing my Giants, I guess. But it was just fun to do the crowd chants like the Jets, Jets. Like
yeah.
like I never like really that, but yeah, I mean Adrian Martinez out of Nebraska had a big performance. for preseason, 104 yards. The Jets kicked a game-winning field goal. Washington actually ended up missing one, which was, kind of funny to be honest. But yeah, because like me and my friend were like, "Oh, you suck," but then he made the next one. But the Jets able to Braylon Allen, with a big, Wisconsin running back, had a really good college career,
Yeah.
had 54 yards. Brandon Smith 70 yards. So I mean, it was a good performance. A lot of the backups played. We got to see Jaden Daniels playing for Washington. We got to see some. They have a nice quarterback group. They got Mariota, who was on the Eagles last year. They got yeah, he wasn't like anything great, but they got Sam Hartman from Notre Dame. So we got to see like a lot of their entire quarterback room play. Some of their starters like Terry McLaurin played a little bit. Jahan Dotson played quite a bit. Some of their defense. So it was just cool, and we had like front row seats. But it was a good game. That's getting the W. The Giants got a big W in their opener, also in MetLife on Thursday. Really exciting to see. I mean, Drew Lock got knocked out, but it was Tommy DeVito time again at MetLife.
Not the
Yeah, 8 for 50 yards. So it was just one of those things. Yeah, the whole Italian thing, coming back one more time. But but I mean, it was. I mean, next week I think we'll see Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors. 12 targets, 0 catches. Just Drew Lock overthrew him
12
a couple times.
targets, 12 targets, zero
Or
catches.
it might have been 8, but like it was a
That's
crazy
still a
stat.
lot.
It was like,
He didn't catch a
yeah,
single
I
ball.
look,
Oh, man.
yeah, but they overthrew him like a lot. Like it wasn't his fault. But they just kept missing him. It was bad. But
Dang,
yeah,
man.
no, it wasn't great. But what was I know Neighbors is such a good, like he's such a
Yeah,
dog. Like I'm so glad that the
yeah,
Jets got him. I can't believe he didn't like catch anything either. But it was really on the quarter. But like Drew Lockwood didn't really have a great game, and he also got knocked out of it.
yeah,
Through a pick. But what really impressed me, out of the Giants is the Giants' run game was like, I mean, they got a
yeah.
bunch of different backs who really like popped off. I mean, Dante Miller from South Carolina, 12 carries for 63 yards. Eric
Hmm.
Gray had a couple touchdowns, including one where he juked a defender out, ran all the way to the end zone. Yeah, so he was great. Also in the receiving game, he had
Yeah.
four
He was the
receptions for
receiving leader
46
too.
yards.
Exactly.
Yeah, the receiving leader in that game, and he had a couple big rushing yards, or
Yeah.
rushing touchdowns as well. So I mean, I'm excited. I mean, Eric Gray's definitely a very serviceable backup. Could even be the starter. I mean, Devin Singletary, I haven't even seen him yet.
Oh,
Tyron Tracy
yeah.
had 26 yards and 5 carries. So yeah, I mean, you got Tyron
Hot
Tracy out of
take
Purdue, you
alert.
got Eric Gray, Dante Miller, and then you got a Devin Singletary we haven't even seen yet, and he's
Exactly.
pretty good.
That,
He
that
could be a senior. So
yeah.
yeah, they got a nice running back room going there. So, and especially with the of Kayvon Thibodeau and Burns, and Dexter Lawrence, and
Yeah.
you got Malik Neighbors. This could be a good team. I mean, this could be a team who could challenge for a wild card spot. Potentially win 8, 9, maybe even 10, depending on how the schedule shakes out. I was saying as a, but now it's just like with four good backs on this team. I mean, like at least, what I mean, at least like three. Like I mean, it's almost like like Saquon who, what I mean. They got like a running back by committee going on. This is
No,
great to see because I was worried about
disrespect.
the running back room.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it is disrespect, but obviously no one's as good as Saquon Barkley is. But like I feel like they're gonna end up splitting the carries between the guys. Like I thought it would be the Singletary show. I think now Singletary is probably just gonna be one of the guys. I mean, Eric Gray's gonna get a
That,
lot of touches. I think
that's honestly a hot
we'll
take
see
for
about
That's honestly a hot
what.
take for me because I
No,
feel like Singletary, like he should be the lead. He's the leader.
he's
I feel
definitely
like
gonna be. He's definitely gonna
his,
be the
his,
leader, but I think like
his
he's definitely
dominance
gonna be the
last
leader.
season.
But I think the other guys
No,
but
that's
yeah,
that's without a doubt.
it'll
Like
be a nice.
that's without a doubt. Like
Yeah,
I feel like
he'll definitely
they
do.
have a good backup. They have a good depth chart behind him. But I feel like he's still the main guy.
Yeah,
Like his dominance last year that showed us that he's still a reliable back in this league. He might not produce Saquon numbers, but they might not need him to produce Saquon numbers. Because of the back
exactly.
we're talking about. But saying
That
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 he
is
might
true.
seeing someone like Tyrone Tracy or like Miller being the starter over Singletary, that's a hot take. I mean, and I'm not even a
Nah,
giant.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that's gonna happen. I was just saying I think they might go to like Eric Gray. They might mix it up. Like it'll
Or
be. I
yeah,
think it'll be
yeah,
more for running back by committee thing. But I think Singletary will still be the starter. He almost had 1,000 yards in Houston alongside
exactly.
Damian Pierce. I think Singletary could be really good. Well, I mean, pretty. He's not going to be Saquon Barkley like
Yeah,
Christian McCaffrey level, but he'll be a
yeah,
very serviceable RB1 for the team. And I'm looking. I was thinking like wearing his jersey just to be funny and being like, "Oh, he's the real 26." But I feel like he could be like more than serviceable for the Giants, especially with Eric Gray and Tracy and Miller. I think they got a very capable running back room, and I was kind of worried about that, but not
yeah.
really. I mean, like they'll be fine in that front. They have guys like Jalen Hyatt, you got Darius
Mhm.
Slayton, you got Theo Johnson, who I love.
Dale,
That pick from
one
Penn
Dale.
State, Wandale Robinson. Yeah, Wandale is really. I forgot about him and Isaiah Hodgins. Like they
Can't
have like a
forget
lot
about
of
him.
different
He's
options.
so good.
Yeah, I know. So many different options. Like the Giants don't have that bad receivers, and they improved the O line.
Yeah.
They got all these like Illuminor. They got all these guys, John Runyon. Like
Hmm.
Daniel Jones is going to be well served. I mean, he is going to have a good running back, great receiving room, a great, much better O line. Like it's really up to him if he can perform well. And obviously, the defense is going to be top notch because that's the strength of the team. I mean,
Yeah.
if Daniel Jones could be like, go back to his old form, like this could be a dangerous team. This could be a team to watch out for in the playoffs this year. Potentially make the wild card. I don't know if it's good enough to like really be ahead of like Philly or Dallas, but I think they'll still
Well,
be
y'all are
they
gonna
could
be
at least
ahead of
challenge for a
Dallas.
second.
Y'all are gonna be ahead of
They
Dallas. Like
might.
yes, we get them.
Yeah, because the Cowboys really didn't do anything in the offseason. They
We
actually lost
lost
a
so
lot of their
many
guys to like
players.
Washington.
Exactly. Exactly. What
Yeah, they
additions
lost
have
like
they made?
Biadasz and they
Biadish,
didn't
yeah, and
gain
then
any. They didn't even get
yeah,
anyone.
they're
They got
replacing Tony
Ezekiel Elliott
Pollard with
back.
another Zeke Elliott. But yeah, I mean, and not to say that he was bad in New England, but he's not. I mean, Pollard had taken over as like the main guy for the team at the running back position, and now I don't know if Elliott can regain that kind of like RB1 type stuff, and they don't have a really good room behind him anyway, so they'll have to over rely on him, and he might not step up to the plate. They don't have. I mean, they're having the drama with their quarterback. Not. I mean, the extension, whether he's going to get it or not. Then there's the extension issues with CD Lamb. Who knows
CD
what's going to
Lamb.
happen
Yeah.
when Michael Parsons
So many
like
issues. Yeah. Hmm.
exactly. That's why I feel like I mean even Washington has that might be a stretch, but at least New
Washington's
York. I feel
improved
like
too. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like New York definitely has the
Yeah.
edge over Dallas at this point. Like it should be Philadelphia, New
I think
York
so.
on
Yeah.
top the rank.
That's really nice to hear because like the Cowboys have like kind of owned like the Giants for a long time, but hopefully like they could break through this year, get a game. They played the Cowboys twice on Thursdays this year, one at home and then
Oh,
Thanksgiving, and
interesting.
hopefully the Giants could take one. And I think Philly's a pretty good team this year. I mean, I obviously like Saquon going there, like it's a good deal for him, but like it sucks for us. But I mean I think they could bounce back. I mean their secondary, they got Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Like I really like what they did getting CJ back. Like they really
Yeah.
bolstered their secondary with Mitchell and DeJean.
Yep.
Like they realized that that's what was going wrong and they fixed it. And on offense, I mean they're loaded. They have Hurts, they have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and now Saquon Barkley. I mean, obviously they lost Jason Kelsey, like Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox. They lost like some guys, but I still feel like they're the team to beat in the division. And you'll see if the Giants could take one from them too, or if the Cowboys can, because like I mean it might be tough, but like I mean Saquon's return game to New York, I mean that's gonna be intense. Obviously the Eagles Cowboys games are gonna be intense. Even Washington, like they play spoiler a lot. I mean I like what they did in the off, like Jane Daniels and they've got some good players on that they Scary Terry and John Dotson. Their defense is like Chase Young's gone, but like he's in
Yeah.
San Francisco, but their D line's really good. So it'll be a lot
Now,
of good
now he's in
divisional
New Orleans actually.
NFC East games for sure. Huh?
Chase Young now he's in New Orleans actually. Like after
Oh
he got
really?
traded to the
Oh yeah,
49ers,
yeah.
signed them with them with
Yeah,
the free.
yeah, going to New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, speaking
But
of
yeah,
the Washington D line, like they lost Montez Sweat and Young, and they still have such a stacked defense. Crazy, like like and they added some. They added Dorrance Armstrong and the other Cowboys guy too. was it Dante Fowler? They added some guys from the Cowboys, too, so they're weakening them division rival too, and like they lost all these good players, and they
Yeah,
still have
taking guys
a
from.
enough team. So they could,
That
yeah,
is
like
interesting. Yeah.
play spoilers, like you're saying.
They could close the gap. I think they could close the
Yeah.
gap. We'll see. I mean, they played the Giants week 2, so then that'll
Okay.
be an interesting one. It'll be Jane Daniels against Lee. I think the Giants, they could probably get off to a 2-0 start, potentially beating Minnesota and Washington. Then the schedule gets pretty hard, to be honest with you. I mean, they might really struggle in that middle stretch. But
Oh.
we'll have to see. I mean, Browns, that's a tough team. They got the Cowboys coming into town. They got the at Seattle against Cincinnati at home, and then the big
Mhm.
Eagles game. So there's the Giants could be reeling by the time Saquon returns with the Eagles. It could also be. I mean, either way, that's good. They're going to get up for that. But that's a tough, really tough. The Browns all the way to the Eagles, and then at Pittsburgh, that could be an interesting one. Then the Commanders. Then it gets easier. Then they have the Panthers. But I mean, those games should be really interesting in the middle of the season. And yeah, I mean, so that's pretty much the New York Giants. I mean, what are your like expectations for the Eagles for like 2024? Like now while we're on the subject of like NFC East, I guess.
Well, before I actually get to that, I wanted to say, since like Drew Lock is injured, and they're saying that there's a chance that this is like
Mm.
a big, like a long enough injury, or I mean, this might take like a longer healing time. Do you think now, like the Giants are? I mean, I know that they're interested in an addition, in a quarterback addition, but do you think it's going to be Ryan Tannehill? Does
Mm.
he make it back into the league this year?
Wait, sorry, who's that?
Ryan
Ryan
Tannehill,
Cannon?
Tannehill,
Oh,
the former
oh,
Titans star.
Tannehill. Oh, from he used to be in the Dolphins. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about like him like coming back to the
No,
NFL to be.
that's the
Oh,
thing.
he's a
That's
free
the
agent.
Yeah, but that's what I'm wondering. Like now with this Drew Lock injury, do you think that the Giants are going to take a
I
chance on
guess a
him?
backup. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, I feel like they're set on Daniel Jones as their guy, but they need a backup. Like Tommy DeVito being theirs, and potentially,
Mhm.
I've heard like people are saying like the Browns might want to trade Deshaun Watson, and I don't know. I don't know if I really want that on my team, to be honest. Like, there's just like way too many different kinds of concerns all the time on the field, off the
Yeah.
field, and injuries and this and that and the other thing. It's like,
Hold on, you
do we
said
really
that.
need that? But like at the same time, as a backup, it wouldn't be. But plus, the Browns signed him to a ridiculous contract. They're not going to
Yeah.
trade him anyway. I don't know why that even came up, to
Wait,
be
is
honest
is
with
that
you. But
is that a legit rumor though that they could trade him into the
I
Giants?
think I mean, I don't know about the Giants, but I've heard that the Browns did want to trade him in general. Because like
Bro,
he's not even been their starter for like a long time. Like Joe Flacco's been in there, and the other guys have been in there, and but
the
we'll see.
Flacco.
We'll see.
Speaking of Flacco and the disrespect, like they could have kept him. They didn't even need to add Tyler Huntley or who was the other guy? They added because I was thinking of writing an article about how many like legit quarterbacks that they have, but they could have just kept Flacco as the backup, and now he has a chance to mentor Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. I feel like that was
True.
disrespectful of letting him go. And then now, if you're saying
I
that
know
like
he had such a
traded,
yeah.
and they're gonna have like a really tough like I guess transitionary period without like somebody who was playing well last season like Flacco.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Joe Flacco with the run with the Browns last year, winning a playoff game, and just really remarkable what he did there. Yeah, now on the Colts, so I'm mentoring Anthony Richardson, but yeah, it'll be really interesting. I mean, I'm excited. Looking forward to this Giant season, this NFL season. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it could be a good year. Like I said, I think Philly's probably a team to be in the division. I think the Giants might be a sneaky pick for a wild card. The Cowboys will have to see. They're always going to be in the mix too, and then Washington, they're not like a bad cellar dweller. Like they could even be sneaking win like 7 games, maybe even more. So like I feel
Yeah,
like all 4 teams are gonna be in it this year because they've all made off.
yeah,
Like 3 of them have made off season additions, and Cowboys have kind of like lost guys, which it could make things very interesting come
mhm.
like the season. But yeah, I mean, I guess yeah. So what I guess what are your thoughts on like the Eagles going into 2024 now that we
Yeah.
got the Giants out of the way, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm still worried. Like preseason is not an indication of how the team's gonna go. So like I watched the game yesterday against the Ravens.
Right.
We did.
I saw the
I
end of that too. That was an interesting way to finish it with the
oh
miss
yeah,
the fumble and the miss and getting a second chance. I was like, ooh, like
yeah.
interesting. But yeah.
Very lucky to get out of that because I mean no more overtime in preseason games, so it could have been a 13-13 tie and that would have just been like dumb. Dumb. I mean, like I'll say, like if there wasn't a chance to win the game, then whatever, like a 13-13 tie doesn't matter in the preseason. But for Elliott to miss that field goal and then he also missed an extra point beforehand, like what's going
Yeah.
on? Like, are we still going through this like BS again? But
The
it's
miss.
just preseason. Maybe it's just an overreaction from me. But like I'm still not gonna know how this team's gonna look like until week 1 in Brazil, of all places, where the lights are gonna be like
Ooh. It's
heavily
gonna be a
on.
really interesting game, like against the Pack. Jordan Love, who just signed an
Mhm.
extension, and the Packers, and Giant safety Xavier McKinney against like a former Giants
Yeah.
running back Saquon Barkley.
Oh
That's
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
a
That
crazy game. And, oh my, I'm looking forward to that. Even just like as a forget about like hate watching the Eagles, just as a neutral fan, like that's gonna be a really good game to see. You know what I mean? Like Packers
yeah.
Eagles, and that that's a great way to start their the season for both those teams. And yeah, like there's a reason they have that on Prime. Like Chiefs Ravens is going to be a really good AFC
Mhm.
championship rematch. Two of the best teams in the conference, and then the next day you got Packers Eagles in Brazil Friday night. So like
Yeah.
it'll be fun. It'll be really cool. I'm looking forward to the start of the season for sure. And then they're taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Who we'll see who they roll out at quarterback, or Sam
Mhm.
Darnold or whatever. But I think the Giants have a good chance to win that one. The Jets taking on in the Monday night slot, they Aaron Rodgers and back in that Monday night slot against the 49ers, this time in San Francisco. So fingers crossed things go right. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
the Jets, that's an interesting team too. I mean, the Bills, they lost Stephon Diggs. I mean, they've only really gotten weaker. They lost a lot of their secondary. The Jets could be the team to beat. I mean, they have just like similar to the Giants. They also have like they have Brees Hall. They have a good defense. They have probably better than the Giants in some ways. I mean, with Aaron Rodgers, if things go well, I mean, they could have a really good chance of at least making the playoffs, winning the division. I don't think they'll make a big run in the playoffs because they're not really as good as like the Ravens or the Chiefs or like maybe even
Oh
the
yeah.
Texans. I want to say, but like I think they can
I
at
feel
least
like
make the playoffs, make things interesting in New York for the first time in a long time.
yeah, I feel like the AFC East has taken like a huge step back overall as a division. So I don't think it's still gonna be like the Ravens and Chiefs in the dominating the AFC. We'll see like a couple of maybe
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
North teams, like maybe Pittsburgh might still continue their like 500 streak, which I don't know because
They're
I
nine.
don't trust Arthur Smith at OC. We'll see what happens there. Cincinnati is gonna be back.
Yeah.
So oh,
Mm-hmm.
AFC South. I mean, the Jaguars made moves. There's Houston's like a new rising team. So yeah, Indianapolis is gonna have a Rich back again. Like he has a chance to fully show what he can do, maybe in a whole like 18 game season, 18 week season.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
I
agree
guess
with that. So,
yeah. I guess with my Eagles, like I won't know how they're gonna do until week 1 rolls around, and from there, I feel like we'll see like what the transition process is gonna be like because we've removed the coaches who may have been the problem last year, but the players still
mhm.
remain. And if we find out that it's actually the players who are at fault for all the mishaps that happened, like 1-6 end to the season after like what 11-1 we were, so like it's
Ten
gonna
and
be
one.
tough.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
very
yeah.
very
Mm-hmm.
nervous, and like I just wish
Yeah,
that
it's
we
gonna
didn't
be
have the
interesting to see
lights
the new one.
shining so bright. I wish that we didn't have the lights shining so bright in week 1. Like it has to be in Brazil. We're playing the Packers,
Yeah.
like one of
Yeah, a
the
good team
highest paid
too.
quarterbacks in the league. Like 55 million a year. So it's there's so much tension. Like beforehand. I hope
I
everything
know
goes.
there's a lot, and then Saquon Barkley, and like coming in
Oh, yeah,
there, and like it's gonna be interesting. There's a lot of pressure on you guys, and I mean
yeah,
I know I'll be watching just to see see what happens. But that's
Yeah.
just, yeah, like I said, even as a neutral fan, like I'm really looking forward to Packers, like just to see how that goes down, because I feel like that could be a big game. Um, yeah, I mean, while we're doing this, you wanna like, I guess just make, I don't know if you want to make Super Bowl predictions, but just like to go over the contenders. Like I feel like in the AFC, like the Chiefs are still going to be the team to beat, because like I mean they did it without like a receiver one last year. Like I feel like this year with Hollywood Brown and like I mean the guys that they have, I don't know what the deal with Rasheed Rice is, but he's pretty good. I mean getting like a receiver one like Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy in the draft, like from Texas, like they're gonna be scary. Of course, they're the same team with Mahomes and Chris
Yeah.
Jones and the whole 9 yards, and like you can never count them out. That's what I realized. The Ravens, I think, might be their biggest contender. Especially adding like Derrick Henry to that
Yeah.
team, and of course you got Lamar, you got Zay Flowers, you got the whole lineup basically. So I mean, I think it's going to be Chiefs, Ravens, the Texans. CJ Stroud, they got a lot of weapons, and in Houston, I mean, you still got Damian Pierce, you got a good defense. I mean, I think they could take a step forward after already winning the South. The Jaguars, yeah, that's an interesting team too. I mean, they've made some moves. I think they'll be in the conversation. And AFC East, I'm really looking at the Jets this year and Rodgers. I think they have a good chance of potentially winning it. But the Dolphins, obviously, you got Tua, who also signed a contract. You got Tyreek. I mean, it's usually a two-way race between the Bills and the Dolphins in the AFC East. I think this year the Jets are gonna have something to say, so we might have a three-way competition. But I think potentially the Jets and the Finns might get in the playoffs this year, and the Bills might not be, or it'll be two of the three. I want to say that the Jets will be one of the two, but it'll be really interesting to see. I feel like that's a three-way race for probably two spots out of the AFC East, and then of course West. The Chiefs got it. I think AFC North, the Ravens got it probably, but the Browns are also good. The Steelers, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. I mean that's going to be an interesting team. The Bengals, of course, Joe Burrow. And like any team could win that division. It's like so crazy. And then South, I think the Texans probably got it. Maybe the Jaguars might be in the conversation. Yeah, and then NFC side. NFC East is going to be like a dogfight. Like we already talked about that. I mean, I think I kind of agree. I feel like it could be Philly, like potentially New York, Dallas, and Washington. But I feel like anything could kind of happen. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if like the Giants and Commanders could really challenge like the Cowboys and Eagles, because Cowboys and Eagles have been like much more dominant. I feel like the Giants and Commanders are taking strides. Obviously, divisional play is going to be crazy. I mean, with like Saquon Barkley and this and that and the other thing, and Washington's getting better, and the Giants are getting better, and Philly's getting better, and Dallas is getting worse. But like, it is what it is, I guess. Everyone's just gonna like make fun of they lose in the playoffs if they even same. It's gonna be like the same thing again with them, but we'll see how it shakes out. I feel like the Giants definitely do have a good chance to push them for the two spot. The West, I think the Niners, they've pretty much been as good. If the whole situation with Ayuk's very interesting, but I still feel like they got pretty much all their playmakers, Debo and McCaffrey, and their offense. Their defense is elite. They're probably going to be the favorites to come out the NFC again. The North, the Packers, I think Jordan Love. I mean Xavier McKinney, that's a nice addition. I think they're going to be a good team. I mean the Lions, I think, are the team to beat. Like they're really good. I mean they've got all these, Jameson Williams, and they've got Jared Goff, right? Or no,
Yeah.
yeah, So I mean, they made the NFC Championship game, and yeah, I think they've only gotten better. They made some nice additions, and they just play with that like mentality. And they could have beat the Niners if they made some. So I think the Lions will definitely be in the mix. The Packers probably as well. I think the Bears and Vikings are still kind of rebuilding ish, and then South finally we got the Bucks. The Bucks had a nice season last year, making it to the divisional round. Losing to the Lions in a close one after their dismantling of the Eagles to complete the collapse. But I mean, Baker Mayfield cooking. Like that was an interesting team last year. Like Baker Mayfield. I mean, you got Mike Evans, like consistent 1,000-yard receiver. You got Rashad White. You got a pretty solid defense. I feel like they're probably the team to beat in the South, but I think the Saints are definitely going to be in the conversation. They usually tend to be, and then the Falcons too. The Panthers, I don't know. The Panthers are probably not. I mean, they got Bryce Young, but people are saying they're going to be like pretty bad again this year, and it was funny because I was like reading a Giants prediction. It was like super negative, but it was like, oh, they're playing the Panthers in Germany, and it was like, if there's like a team that's worse than the Giants, it's like it's the Panthers, and then I like started laughing, but I was just like, yeah, the Panthers are probably just not going to be that good, but I think the other three teams could kind of compete. The Falcons, I was really surprised that they drafted like Michael Penix at
Yeah,
quarterback, especially when he already got Cousins. I was like really stumped by that one, but
yeah,
yeah, I think it's probably going to be Bucks to compete, and then we'll see about the Falcons and then the Panthers. But yeah, I mean that's kind of like my read on like the NFL. I think in the AFC, I think it's going to be Chiefs and Ravens are going to be the serious contenders, and then the
yeah.
NFC is probably going to be the Niners, the Lions. We'll see whoever comes out the NFC East. But if I had to pick four teams to put like my ring to put their names in the ring as like the serious like Super Bowl contenders, right now would probably be the Lions, the Niners, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. Like I have like the most confidence in those four teams, and we'll see. There'll probably be a lot of sneaky playoff teams. Like the Giants could be in it, some NFC East teams could be in it, some AFC East teams could be in it. But once like everything's all said and done, I think those are like the four teams that like are the real Super Bowl contenders for next season.
Hmm. So, for my predictions, I guess AFC East, I'm going to say the Dolphins are going to make it there because Bills took a step back.
Yeah, I
Patriots
guess
are
that's
not there yet.
probably
Jets,
yeah.
I
Patriots,
don't have
yeah,
confidence in them. I mean, like they'll get Aaron Rodgers back. They have a good. They seem like they have a good offense, but to me, I feel like it's too many names out there. Like they have way too
like
many wide
Wilson,
receivers,
Gardner,
running backs. Yeah,
yeah,
like there's going to be too many mouths to
Brees
feed, and
Hall,
then
Allen.
Brees Hall, yeah.
That's
Uh,
true.
so there might be like a, I mean, I'm not saying that there is going to be drama, but like they've been
I'm sure there will be a little bit.
yeah, but I guess you just don't wish bad on a team unless you hate them like the Cowboys. But
No.
that's besides the point.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but
No,
yeah, I don't
I
know.
feel you on
Yeah, I don't know about the Jets. Like it's just like they have the guys, but I haven't seen like anything where they can take that step forward. They might
that.
have a shot at
Yeah.
place in the East, but
They
I
might have
still
the shot at the division.
yeah they might, but I don't know. It's like an
I
Eagle
feel like
situation.
they're like yeah.
I feel like it's an Eagle situation where like I have to see how they perform in week one, and that might set the tone for the rest of the season. Or
That's
maybe it
true.
might not be. But I like again until that because we didn't get to see what an Aaron Rodgers led Jets offense was going to look like. He only lasted 4 snaps and then got injured. So until we actually get to see him play like an entire game, I won't. I don't know like if they're going to be better than Buffalo, even though Buffalo's basically the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC East. Like they
Yeah,
lost so
pretty
much,
much.
they haven't really improved, I guess. Like whereas Dolphins at least kept adding players. Patriots are
True.
like they're going through a new regime change. They're not going to be there yet. The Jets made some additions, but like again, I don't really know how that's going to work
Yeah.
out.
I feel like the Dolphins are like a safe bet to kind of like to win the division because they have this like
Yeah,
prolific offense and pretty
yeah,
solid defense. Like the Jets are kind of a wild card. Like you don't know how it's gonna come. Like they have a good defense, they have a good offense, like receivers, and yeah, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Sauce, you got
yeah,
of course Aaron Rodgers, and you got Brees Hall. But it's just like yeah, are the pieces really gonna come together? Like I feel like they're a good bet for the wild card. Like I feel like they'll be able to pull it together enough to do that, but I don't know about like making like a run or anything. Like that's just gonna be yeah. I put them in the wild card for now, which is still an improvement because they haven't made the playoffs since 2010. So it'd be
Oh wow,
nice.
it's been that long.
Yeah, they have the longest drought in like I think in all four of the leagues or something.
Oh
It's been
man,
hopefully they could snap that. So but we'll see. I feel like they're probably behind Miami
yeah, they're definitely
my rankings, but I think they
in
have a
my
good
opinion.
chance of breaking the playoffs, at least being a wild card team this season.
Yeah. So then for the AFC West, it's obviously Chiefs. Broncos. I mean, I don't trust the Sean Payton regime. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
like
me
say
neither.
that they have any chance at improvement. I mean, they have so many questions that they have to fill out. Who's gonna be their quarterback? Who's gonna be their running back? I mean, like Javante Williams is recovering from an injury and he hasn't been at full strength for a while now. Maybe Audric Estime, I think
That's the man. Yeah, for Notre Dame.
he could take over now. I mean, there's Jaleel McLaughlin from last season, like Samaje Perine. They,
Right.
they should be backups, but they've been given enough playing time that I'm not even sure anymore, like what their roles are. It could be like they're all RB1s, but not really. Like
Yeah,
if
I get what
you
you
put them
mean.
on any other team, they're a solid backup. But then Broncos, they don't have like that true number one guy, so anyone could take over for them. Raiders, I feel like, I mean, they're I just feel like the cohesion that they have within their team, even though they may not have like the stars or the like, I guess, I mean, they still do have some guys, but uh like I think that like how close they are as a team with Antonio Pierce and the support behind him, like from Devontae Williams, Max Crosby, that might push them ahead of like the Broncos or even the Chargers. But I mean, I think before the season, I probably would have said like Chiefs and Chargers like at 1 and 2, but Raiders could push them on. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, like the Chargers regime, with Jim Harbaugh coming back to the NFL again. I just hope like
Right.
he can off all that like Michigan drama. But I mean, also I don't really understand like are we what kind of Harbaugh are we getting? Like, is he and whether like now whether his like Michigan legacy was tainted or not? Like, if he had any involvement in all that, like all the cheating drama and stuff. So
Mhm.
I still think like again with like the AFC East and the West, I have the same thing where a problem where I know who the number one team is going to be, but I have no idea who that second place team could be, because in other years East it would be Buffalo. Like
Yeah.
Buffalo could even be number one, but this year they took a step back. So I
Mhm.
mean that allows the
I
chance
think
for
it's the Jets year to like
the
at least
Jets
be second if
to
not
step
first.
over.
And that's the hope. It's like, does it come together or not? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
I think it will. I think they'll be the wild card. Probably wild card one. In the AFC West, I think the Raiders
I
have the
wouldn't
best
say
chance.
wild card one.
Well,
I
maybe not one, but the one of the wild
one of
cards.
the,
I
yeah,
think it could
yeah.
even be like this two or three, to be
Hmm.
honest. But we'll see what happens. I think in the AFC West, the Raiders. I agree. I think they're the best. Like they even beat the Chiefs last season, like on Christmas.
Hmm.
So like they have
Hmm.
a solid defense. They have like Max Crosby. They got. I mean, they don't have Devontae Adams anymore, do they? Or they do? I
Yeah,
forgot.
Devontae
I
Adams,
think
yeah,
they do, right?
they still do, yeah.
Because they got it from the Packers. Yeah, what am I saying? Yeah. So they have Adams. They have
You forgot a
who's
whole
their
season of
quarterback
him
now?
playing.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm just like yeah. It's just but yeah, they I think they have a really solid defense. They have like Zamir White. They got some good running backs. They got a good passing attack. They got Devontae Adams. They got
That's good.
I mean I feel like if anyone who can push the Chiefs, it's probably them. They could also maybe challenge for the wild card, in Las Vegas. But I mean, but yeah, I mean, I don't really trust the Broncos. They have like a lot of questions. The Chargers are like really like inconsistent, and they always like
Mm.
find ways to lose games. So I don't like really trust them either, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean
But
with the
yeah, I mean,
Chargers,
it is what.
yeah, exactly. With the Chargers, I'm surprised like that they got rid of both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And I mean Williams on the Jets. Okay, that makes me think that the Jets are actually. I completely forgot that he went to the Jets there. So like now I feel like they have a more decent shot, because with him and Garrett Wilson, and they have a bunch of like young talent in their wide receiver room. They have a shot at like one of the wild card spots, like you were saying. And with the Chargers, I mean, they have so many changes going. Like no, the wide receivers are gone. They have a whole new room there. They got two of the Ravens guys joining their former OC, uh, Greg Roman. So Dobbins is coming over. Gus Edwards is coming over. So. Um, I mean, yeah, they're in a transitionary period. They have a chance at success, because, but now it's up to like Harbaugh to see like can he how quickly he can gel that whole team together. Um, AFC North,
True.
it's Baltimore all the way. I think Bengals are also going to be
Yeah,
one of the top wildcard
I
teams.
think Bengals might be
Browns,
decent. Yeah, actually, they might be the wild card one because they got Burrow, they got like all their guys are Chase, and like yeah, they're like stacked.
yeah,
So on both sides of the ball, so, like
yeah, exactly,
yeah, yeah.
exactly, and then
The whole
and
division's gonna be so competitive too. That's the
it's,
thing.
yeah, one of the most competitive I think in the whole
Because even
NFL.
like the worst team, like the Steelers, are probably gonna be like a borderline 500 team, and Browns could be like in the wild card conversation. The Bengals, of course, and the Ravens. Like that's a very tough division for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it always gets close every year. I know what you're talking about there.
It is. It's a
AFC
very close
South,
race. Yeah.
yeah. AFC South Texans have taken over. The CJ Stroud is the guy now. He's gonna lead them to
Yes, sir.
probably next decade of success. I feel like because he's done so well
Yeah.
as a rookie, and if he just keeps up on this
I know
trajectory,
that
he's
doesn't
gonna.
usually happen either, but for him,
Yeah,
it did. I mean, and they got the weapons. They
he's
got
all
like
pro.
Dell, and they got the
Yeah,
receivers. But he's his game really translated to the NFL as a rookie
yeah,
quarterback, which like rarely happens. Like you know what I mean? So
yeah.
they're definitely going to be a scary team to watch out for in the future for sure.
hmm I actually feel like the AFC South could be the team with like two more wild cards there because the Colts with Anthony Richardson back, maybe like I don't know like how their wide receiver room is looking because I mean they still have Pittman and but like what's his name one of their wide receivers just recently went down with an injury, and there's some question marks in the rest of the room. But they still have a good team. I feel like Richardson could be like this year's CJ Stroud. I feel like I legitimately think that he could lead them to success instantaneously. And the Jaguars aren't still out of it. The only team from the AFC South I'd say who has no chance would be the Tennessee Titans. So I think Houston.
Yeah,
I would probably say like Houston, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville along with Cincinnati. Like they're gonna. Let's see, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Cincinnati are gonna be my wild card teams, with the Jets like just barely
interesting.
missing out. But I'd say
Ooh,
my
okay.
division
Yeah, you
leaders
could
are
do that.
the Chiefs, Dolphins, Ravens, and Texans. That's for the AFC side.
Yeah. I think I agree with you pretty much. I'd have probably wild cards like Jets, Bengals, and Raiders. Yeah, or
Raiders,
something like
yeah,
that. Something like
they'll keep it close. I feel like, but I feel like also like losing Josh Jacobs on offense, and then who
that.
knows how?
True.
Yeah, how we don't know how well like Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell is gonna be once they decide whoever's the starter.
Yeah.
I still think it should be Minshew because I feel like he's proved time and time again that he can still be an NFL quarterback. And maybe not like a starter. They should still definitely like draft a guy next year. They need like that number one guy, but I think for this year, I'd give it to Minshew over O'Connell. I'd even give like the South Alabama quarterback that they got as a UDFA, Carter Bradley, a shot too. But that's probably just a me. That's just the Sun Belt homer in
Yeah.
me that he should get.
Yeah. Maybe.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
But
Zamir
yeah.
White has
Hmm.
huge shoes to fill. They have a good defense, but like
That's true. They
how
do.
can that be like the main reason that they win games? They're just like barely passing by, but like the defense is the reason. We'll see what happens there, I guess.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
probably go like Bengals, Jets. It could be even be like the Jaguars as a walk or the Colts. Like
Mhm.
that's the thing. Yeah, it could be any mix. But yeah, I guess over to the NFC and then we I can call it an episode, I guess. But what are
Yeah.
your predictions for yeah, starting with the NFC East. That's always a fun
Mhm.
one for
Yeah.
NFC East fans like us. But yeah.
Yeah. I, I'll say the. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to like say that my Eagles aren't going to be first place. I don't think it's going to be Dallas for sure, but I don't think that there's like I don't know. It's not even like me being a hater or anything. I just don't know if Washington and New York are there yet to be number one, like
I
in the
don't,
division.
I don't think they are either. I don't think they are either. I'll
I
just
don't
say
think these.
that like right off the bat. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
but then keep in mind, like there hasn't been a reputation winner in like 17 years, and I feel
Yeah.
like you said, the Cowboys went down, so like it's probably the Eagles' year to seize it back. And then, like I said, I think that it would be interesting if the Giants could challenge them or even.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I feel like it's definitely the Eagles' year probably the Eagles should be favorite to win the division, but it would be interesting to see if the Giants could challenge for number two or
Mhm.
potentially even number one. But we'll see. At least number two in a wild card spot.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm saying that it's gonna be closer most people are gonna say. Like, especially for an Eagles fan, it's gonna be blasphemous saying this. But I think Eagles are just gonna be number one by like a smidge. I think the Giants are gonna be pushing them for that number one
Yeah,
spot too. But I have them definitely making
yeah.
it to the
The
playoffs,
Giants
both of
probably
the teams.
will.
And,
Yeah,
and then like the
the
homer in me
Eagles
wants
and Eagles
Washington
and
at third place. Yeah, the homer in me wants
yeah,
Washington
and
for
then
in third place and
fourth.
then the Cowboys fourth. But I don't think that's gonna happen. Dallas probably will edge them over a little bit. But the competition
They'll
will
probably
be
be third or maybe even yeah. Cowboys will
yeah.
probably be. I don't even know. I feel like they still might be second. The Giants might be third, but it's gonna be close. Like I feel like the Giants might have something to say like about that. I hope they. I think the goal for the Giants is like they should definitely try to take one from either Dallas or Philly, like whether that's Saquon's
Mhm.
game or whether that's one against Dallas in prime time. Like they just have to like get over the hump because they
Yeah,
have the team to do it. It's just like can they or is
yeah.
there something gonna like work against them and they're not gonna be able to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, I'm actually really surprised by what the Giants have done, and they've covered most of the spots that they
They look
needed to.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
running
yeah,
back, like tight end, defense. They
exactly.
got Brian Burns. Like yeah,
Hmm.
the receiver position, Malik Neighbors. Like they'll be
Yeah,
solid. Just can they like do it when it matters? I guess. Like I think
yeah,
that's the question. Like
yeah.
yeah, we'll see. I think they should be able to they should be able to compete for second in a wild card, and then we'll see if they can catch the Cowboys and potentially the Eagles too. But we'll see. Like I think I agree with you. I think Eagles probably first. There'll be probably a battle between the Cowboys and Giants for second, and then and then like Commanders will probably be last. But they'll even the Commanders will probably like improve like significantly from last year too. So it should be a good NFC East divisional race.
Yeah, definitely. Now with the NFC West, I think that that's going to be a tight division too. I mean, honestly, like even the NFC North is going to be the tightest division because I feel like the
Mhm.
Bears, with all the additions that they've made, they might not be a playoff
Yeah,
team, but they're going to certainly push it. Like they're going to push that
yeah,
lower
Caleb
limit,
and
and they
Odunze.
might, yeah,
That's
they might
true.
be like one of the first teams out. But like it'll no, actually that's incorrect. No, if they're one of the first teams out, then that means they didn't even make it like close enough. What I meant is like they'll be one of the first teams like just outside the out from the outside looking in. I think that they've made strides. I think Caleb Williams is he's shown has shown some of his potential. We'll see how that works out in the first game. Obviously, we don't know how that whether it's going to translate, but he looks good, and I like what the
He
additions that
does
they've
look
made
good.
to the squad. They've definitely upgraded themselves. But yeah, NFC West, I think it's still going to it's the 49ers division. It's tough for anyone to compete because
Yeah,
I mean like Seattle, LA, they're in the mix, but they've kind of taken
they're
like
in the
my
mix for sure.
yeah, they're definitely in the mix. They'll probably both make the playoffs too. It's just uh, even that
True.
minor step back in such a tight division, like it could mean that could be the difference between whether they're gonna be a playoff team or not. So that's why I'm like it's really unsure. Like, did the upgrades that they make like, are they gonna make enough of a difference to be behind, like keep up in the race with San Francisco. But yeah, I think I'd probably go with the Rams in second place and then 49ers first, Seattle second. Or, sorry, third. Cardinals, yeah, no, forget them. I don't like their head coach, Jonathan Gannon, former Eagles DC. But I don't know. They haven't really made
Mm.
enough progress in my eyes to where they'll catch up in this race. But I remember like the good old days when that was like the one of the best divisions in the NFL. They had all four teams were like playoff contenders every year. But now it's just kind of been San Francisco leading the way. NFC North, Packers looking good, Lions looking good, Bears they might like come back in here, and then Vikings have been kind of like consistently making the playoffs since for a couple of years now. I'm gonna say Lions are gonna be first place because that's just me being a homer. I like what they did last year in the
Me too. I would too. Yeah.
so that's why and I still have I know that Rogers isn't there in Green Bay anymore, but I still have that like Packers hate I just don't want them to be successful. But that's just like me being dumb. But they're definitely going to be second place. I don't think Chicago is there yet to push the top two teams, but they'll make an improvement for sure. It's like how you're describing your Giants. Like they'll definitely make an improvement. They might push for a playoff spot, but who knows if it's going to ultimately come together or not.
Yeah,
And
that's a thing. Yeah.
yeah, Vikings also. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting them. Like they, I don't know. I mean, if it's Darnold at quarterback, I hope his like return to a starting role works out after what he's learned with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. But I mean, it's gonna be really interesting if McCarthy takes over from week one. To see like uh, how he can like translate his skills to the NFL. I mean, he was all right in Michigan. I mean, some people may not view him as highly, but he was one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. Probably. I mean, that there's a reason why he went in the first round. Maybe he should have been a second rounder, but quarterback demands always going to be high every season. So good thing for the Vikings to get their like post Kirk Cousins succession plan. Darnold is obviously a capable enough backup. At least that's what he showed in San Francisco. And then McCarthy could be the leader in the future, or even now. Who knows what's going to happen? But can they push the Detroit or Green Bay? I don't know. I feel like because the quarterback is such a big role in the NFL that if you lose your star, like your main guy who's been taking you to like who's made you successful for all these years, uh, you're taking a step back. And any step back in this competitive of a league, it might be more the it might be that they're closer to the bottom than they are to the top. So we'll see what happens in the end in the NFC North. NFC South, that it just seems like a weak division to me. I feel like the Bucks are going to take it. Falcons should have a shot. I mean, but then losing Rondale Moore to a season-ending injury, that's pretty devastating. I've like he could have been one of their. I was looking forward to that, like how what he was going to do this season, because I feel like they needed somebody behind Drake London to take over that like wide receiver two spot, and I felt like he still has so much potential. It just didn't click in Arizona. Maybe he could have clicked here, but then it didn't work out. Sad for him. Uh, yeah, Panthers. I don't see much improvement. Saints. They've just been mid. I just think they're gonna stay mid. Like it'll be like an 9-8 record or 8-9 record, something like that. Nothing more, nothing less. If they do less, it's gonna be worse than what I'm expecting of course. But like if they do better than that, I'll be extremely surprised. I just don't think they're better than Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is still leading the edge there. But yeah, in the playoffs, I don't know about. I don't think the Buccaneers are gonna make it past like the one round or maximum. It'll be one round. Eagles, same thing. I just think that they're not gonna compete with like the 49ers or even like the Lions, Packers, that kind of team. But
Yeah, yeah, I can see that happening too. Yeah.
yeah, so I think I mean from the NFC side, San Francisco's still the team to beat. Like I don't know if anyone's there yet at that level. Maybe the Packers, maybe the Lions, but
Maybe.
that's still a big maybe. Like it's definitely not going to be the other two leaders. The Eagles, they have way too many questions for me to now like in the preseason say that they have a shot at the Super Bowl. Like obviously the homer in me wants them to be a Super Bowl contender, but I need to see like a good play on the field, and I
Yeah,
don't have seen that yet. So that's why I'm still going to
exactly.
doubt them until like mid season or something. And Buccaneers, somebody always has to win a division. You can't just like not have a division leader. So that's the role that they'll play. So
Yeah, that's my favorite analysis of the
I just beat
episode.
that.
Like, someone has to win the division. That is like the NFC South. Like every year, it's like, well, someone's
Yeah,
got to win it, and like they might have like record, but sure. Like I mean, since Tom Brady left like the
yeah,
Buccaneers and retired, it's just like yeah. I mean, I think so too. And the Bucks like they actually had a pretty good season last year and made it to the
yeah,
divisional round. So I mean, why can't they continue that level of success? Like I don't think anyone's gonna like really challenge them like for
yeah,
that spot. Like I think they'll be pretty all right. So
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, they'll be a playoff team, obviously. Like I don't think that's going to be a question. It's
Yeah.
just like they
But
are
it's
they
like
good
how
enough?
far can they go? Like I don't think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think they
yeah,
could really compete with like the Lions or the Niners
yeah,
or like yeah,
exactly.
we'll see about the maybe the Eagles, but like yeah, the other teams like I don't think they could like really compete against like the teams in the conference. Like yeah,
Exactly. And yeah, then the Super Bowl contenders. Yeah, I think you pretty much got it spot on. Like it's gonna be Chiefs Ravens from the AFC. I mean, the
hmm
only real challenger I would have said like it used to be Buffalo, but now Cincinnati's kind of taking that role. I guess the Texans are still there, so maybe the AFC is not as like down pat
true.
because it could be Houston if one of Kansas City or Baltimore slips up, Houston could easily take over as one of the top two teams.
Houston could definitely, yeah. I mean, yeah. Watch out, like C.J. Stroud, and I mean, I
Mhm.
think they're gonna. I mean, they still have Tank Dell. They still got a bunch of guys. Like, yeah, that could be a sleeper team. Like, yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
they already made it to the division one. They're only gonna get better. So, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
excited because the Giants play them next week in the preseason. So we'll have to see. I
Ooh,
feel like that could be a sleeper team in the AFC, and then
interesting.
NFC. If there's like a sleeper team, I mean, yeah, maybe like if you're and Lions and the Packers, I think could be like in the mix as well potentially, or NFC East winner. That's always like an interesting one.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably
But
what
yeah,
I'd probably go with like the Lions or the Packers as a sleeper in the NFC or something like that.
yeah, I think yeah. I'm probably gonna agree with you there. It's gonna be like Kansas City and Baltimore from the AFC, and then Houston honorable mention. Here probably it's still San Francisco for me. And either one of the NFC North teams. I'm gonna say whoever wins the NFC North is the second team that's gonna participate in the NFC Championship. So that could be Green Bay, that could be Detroit, and then whichever team doesn't make it, they're the honorable mention.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much that's pretty much just about it for the NFL preview for 2024 in the preseason. I mean, obviously, as we continue going through the preseason, more on that. But yeah, this has been a really great episode of Sports Vibe. Obviously, we talked about the Olympics and all the different sports that have been happening, especially U.S. and soccer and swimming, basketball, and track, and just the whole 9 yards. And then, of course, discussing cricket and baseball and a really in detail NFL preview, of course. So yeah, I mean, it's a great time of the year as we start to get towards away from the Olympics and towards football season. But maybe next episode we'll have a little bit more college football. I definitely want to talk a lot about that and maybe do a little 12-team playoff preview. But in the meantime, this has been another episode of Sports Vibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Rupayan Absamanta, and we will see you next week.
Sounds good.